All right, babies, it's that time again. Oh, yeah. We are in Luke 19. And in Luke 19, Jesus calls a tax collector out from a tree to basically invite himself over to his house. And of course, people have a problem with that because, you can't be holy and be seen with someone as evil as a tax collector. Jesus, of course, has a different way of looking at things, and so he uses the opportunity to teach people what it looks like to love. Oh yeah, baby. So that's pretty much it. There's your story. That bird is a cardinal we're hearing over there. Yeah, so I was thinking like this. Stories like this usually remind me that there's far too much division in the world, and people are far too happy to further those divisions. Which is really sad. But if you look in the Old Testament, there's a lot of it. There's a lot of examples of division. In fact, they usually end up on the other side of a sword. Yeah. And often by supposedly the will of God. That's why I bring it up. All those killings in the Old Testament, those aren't just man-made examples of, not following God. No, those are false stories about God creating division. Yeah. Don't get me started, because don't tell me it's not there, because it's replete in the Old Testament. In fact, that's why I believe Jesus came to give us a better picture of who God is. Because the future was not looking good if we were just going to continue to kill off anything that is different than ourselves. But yeah, we do that today, right? We might not necessarily be killing, unless your name is Benjamin Netanyahu. But we're all too, as a society, we're all too happy to just dig in our divisions. Yeah. So I'm not saying there aren't real, nasty people out there that need to be identified as such. I'm not saying that. Or who aren't corrupt, or etc. No, obviously they're there. I'm talking about those day-to-day experiences and conversations that we have with each other where we're all too willing to start creating lines of division. And usually for not good reasons, because that's what I'm saying. If there is a good reason for it, then yeah, okay, talk about it. But if it's not serving a better purpose, then you're part of the problem, is what I'm saying. So instead of perpetuating division, you look for ways of alignment. Now, often when people get into this, especially fundamentalist Christians, they can't handle this kind of talk because they've been trained to believe in the Old Testament God, who's all about division. So when they start hearing, aligning yourself with people who are not exactly the same as yourself, they're like, oh, it's a terrible thing. It's watering down the gospel. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about loving people who are different than you and seeing an atheist be more kind to others than you are. Yeah, and taking note of that and then bringing that to God and be like, what's up with me, Lord, that I can't be as merciful to other people as an atheist is? Yeah. And of course, there's something lovely to be said about just any religion or any any philosophy or system of belief where the ultimate aim is to improve ourselves and to be a better use in society, without getting into all the details and where all the differences are. Just the fact that people get together to acknowledge God, acknowledge each other, acknowledge the needs of a community, and look for in their way, the best way of addressing those needs. That's not a terrible thing. It really isn't. And I think we do God a disservice when we don't recognize that, because he's working in so many people, right? At different places in their journeys. So who are we to say, oh, that's not right? Oh, that's not the will of God? Really? Don't be so sure. In fact, you might be more sure to say your judgment is not the will of God. That would be a safer place to land, rather than criticizing someone. Yeah. So there's that. And that's why the Zacchaeus thing of the tax collector coming out of the tree to open up his home to be with Jesus, and Jesus using using that as an opportunity to teach people of how to be loving and open to everyone. That's what came to mind, is just how we are just steeped in our trenches of division and self-identification that is so rigid that we're incapable of seeing the alignment that God wants us to have with each other just by being human, just by being people who believe in God, just by people who put faith in Jesus, just for the simple fact that you're part of a community that wants to benefit the world. And there's the commonality there, so there's your foundation of discussion and understanding. And then you can bring in, aspects of your own faith that you found that have helped you grow, as opposed to, all right, this is my opportunity to preach the gospel to them, these heathens. You could get to that later, hopefully with a better attitude. But you might want to start off with what it is that you have in common, which is being in the need of God's mercy and being used of him for the benefit of others. And just start rejoicing in your observation of all kinds of diverse life around you. Oh yeah, babe.